This is no ordinary sub shop. This is Firehouse Subs.
Welcome to Firehouse.
Tired of overpriced lunches that underdeliver on flavor? Head to Firehouse Subs, where for a limited time you can get a $4.99 choice sub. Choose from a medium smoked turkey, Virginia honey ham, or roast beef. They're custom-made hot subs at a price ready-made to make you smile. Just $4.99, only at Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives. Participating locations plus tax, limited time offer. Prices may vary for delivery.
All right, great interview there with the Scenic Route, a great, young, very talented band, definitely. And definitely check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Like they said, the Scenic Route. Awesome band. And chances are I will be out at their show on February 27th at the Empire. So check them out and look for me, too, while you're there. It should be a great time. No, that's the Empire Concert Club in Akron. All right, coming up next, he's in a band. They're called Flaw. You may or may not have heard of them. They had a huge rock hit in the summer of 2001. It was called Payback. They did a lot of huge tours, such as Ozfest, and I believe they toured with Coal Chamber at one point as well. They were part of the whole nu metal explosion. Well, they're back. They got back together a few years ago, and are currently working on a brand new album. So coming up right now, we've got Chris Volz on the phone. All right, I've got Chris Volz from Flaw on the phone. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. How about you?
I'm not doing too bad. How's the band going?
Everything is actually going really well, man. We're in a really good place right now. We just got back from Nashville, working with producer Skid Mills, who is he's a Grammy Award-winning producer. He's been nominated for a whole bunch, and he's actually won, I think, 4 or 5. He's done like Saving Abel. He just finished a new Shinedown. He's done Saliva. He's done all the Skillet stuff. We are in the process of working on the new record. We're kind of going back and forth between home and Nashville, which is where the studio is. And we're playing some shows here and there, but we're really just right now focusing all of our attention on finishing this new record, and it's going to be due out this summer.
Nice. So how long have you guys been working on this album?
Well, let's see. We took a hiatus for a little while. We decided to get back together probably about a year ago. And we started off, just playing a lot of shows. We signed with the booking agency TKO, and they set up a bunch of U.S. stuff for us. Went out to Arkansas, down Texas, as far north as Wisconsin. We haven't gone back out, to the far west yet, but we definitely plan on doing that when this record's done. It's been probably about a year. Like I said, we started off touring first, and we've been working on new music for probably about the past 6 months, on and off in between playing shows. We're really happy with it, man. We've gone, we've realized that, in realizing that we wanted to get back together, we realized that we wanted to get back to the roots of our writing style as well. And everything's just coming out really good, man. We're really happy with it.
That's awesome. So, okay, if I'm understanding this correctly, this year you guys will be celebrating 20 years together?
Yeah. Yep. 20 years since we signed the record deal, since we signed with Universal, and that's, when our full careers in Flaw and the music really started taking off. So, yeah, wow, it sounds a lot longer when I put it like that. 20 years, wow.
How did the band get together?
Me and Jay met back in, it was either 96 or 97, in Louisville, Kentucky. He was attending college there, and I had recently moved there because I have family there and stuff. We had both been in bands, prior to that, and I hadn't been in the band since I moved to Louisville, and really got the itch to get back into it. So I picked up one of the local, art, art and music type magazines that they have in the larger cities. This one's called the Leo, and I looked in the back, in the classifieds, help wanted, and all that stuff, and they have a musician's corner section. And Jay had posted an ad, that he had a band that was looking for a singer. I called the number there. This was so long ago that it was actually a pager number, I believe. So he called me back, and I still had some of my demos from the band I was in before. So I brought a demo over to his place. He checked it out. We started talking, and our sights and our direction, seemed like it matched, and we started working on, what would become Flaw pretty much the next day.
Wow. So, how did you guys get signed to Universal? How did that happen?
Well, basically, we had recorded some demos, while we were, playing around Louisville and stuff. And there was a local record store called Ear Ecstasy that had a section where they just showcased local artists. So we dropped a bunch of demos off there, and a management company from out in LA had been in town, and they came across our demo. They contacted us. We actually signed a deal with them. They brought us out to LA, and we showcased for all the record labels. And they ended up. The way it was explained to us is that there was a couple offers at that time, but they were holding out for more money for a bigger deal, and the offers ended up going away. So we were kind of tarnished, by that at the time. But instead of giving up, we just came back home. We parted ways with that management company, and we started, getting back into the writing process again, just getting back out and playing shows. It was probably about 6 months after that we were contacted by a guy named Scott Fraser, who manages bands, we kind of hit it off with him. We were a little skeptical at first, just because of what we had been through with the previous management company, but he promised us that he could get us a deal as long as we kept doing what we were doing. And probably about 6 months after we met with Scott. He had been up to New York and out to LA and met with a bunch of major labels. And he set up another showcase for us at the famous CBGB's in New York. And there was 4 or 5, I think maybe even 6 record labels that came out. And several of them made offers, and we chose to go with Universal. So basically, it was just, a lot of hard work, a lot of patience, a lot of not giving up, when things didn't go the way we thought they should. And finding somebody who could get us through the door with these record labels. I think that's what, not to shift gears, but I think that's what a lot of younger bands these days that are up and coming, with the onset of the internet, with the onset of social media, I think a lot of younger bands, think that, all they need to do is have, a decent Facebook page or have, 1 million hits on YouTube. But that's not really the way it works. I mean, are you going to draw attention that way? Yes. But, the old fashioned way of, basically locking down your hometown as far as, playing shows and packing the house there, branching out, regionally into other states, and finding good representation, finding good management, finding a good attorney, people that can actually get through the door of these record labels, because most record labels that have the ability to give you a decent career, to make a career out of your music, they don't accept unsolicited material. So that means that you can't just mail, Sony or RCA or Universal a CD and expect it to get to the right spot. They get 10,000 of those a day. You really need somebody who has, a correspondence or a repertoire with, labels already that can, walk it in there for you.
Yeah,
But
and
that's how we got signed.
I was actually going to bring that up about these young artists that, they don't understand putting in the hard work because they see, guys like Justin Bieber who pretty much made it because he had a huge video on YouTube that went viral.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, there are artists that do make it like that. It's few and far between. That one hip hop artist, Macklemore, I think his name is. He got signed and got his fame out of having a video on YouTube that got a couple million hits. But it's really not, with the onset of social media, it almost creates a laziness factor.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get your stuff out there that I think a lot of, bands these days, especially with the younger generation, are feeling like all they need to do is just put something out there. And if it gets a whole bunch of likes or it gets a million hits, then that'll get them in. And that may have been the case 10 years ago, but it's not the case now because, I was just talking about this with our drummer, with the onset of, the corporate takeovers of a lot of these sites, the amount of likes that you used to get on a site used to matter, but now it doesn't because you can buy likes. You can pay a certain amount and you can, have, somebody just force feed your stuff out there on social media, and people that like it may just be hitting like because they like a picture or something like that. But so, it's really not like that anymore. I think that, it's important for, the younger generation of bands that want to do this as a career to realize that, you have to stick to the old school ways. Now, of course, use social media to the best of your advantage. Advertise on there, advertise your shows, post your videos, do whatever you need to do in that realm, but don't just rely on that because that's not really enough to just get you signed. You still got to put the legwork in. You still got to pack. You still got to pack venues, and you still need somebody like a manager or an attorney that can walk your, demo and your product into these record labels.
Yeah, definitely. And what's your take on shows like American Idol? I know, like Chris Daughtry went on American Idol basically just to get his band recognized. And then you have Marty Casey, who was on Rockstar NXS, and he went on there basically to get his band recognized. And, of course, Daughtry had success from it, and Marty Casey really didn't. So what's your take on all that?
I think that shows like that, like X Factor and like American Idol, they're just really, really smart marketing ideas. They were created by people that run labels. Actually, the guy that used to be our A&R guy at Universal, his name's Tom Mackay. He has since left. He's now the head of American Idol. And, a lot of these guys came from record labels and what they're doing, it's not as much, people think that it's just, Joe Schmo from off the street that, gets on there and gets this, $1 million deal. That's not really the way it works. Labels are using that as a way to pre-advertise an artist that they're already interested in. Like the people that even make it to the final stages of shows like American Idol, they've already been through a lot of scanning processes. They already have material that's ready to go out there. Chris Daughtry, it was not a mistake that he won. They were planning on giving him a deal before he even went on that show. It's just, if you think about it, what better way to sell records, to have somebody sell millions of records right out of the gate than to have the audience connect with them and believe that they got the deal from the audience connecting with them on this television show. Those shows really are truly just a really smart marketing tool used by the record industry.
So it's basically just a showcase that they show on television then. Yep,
that's exactly what it is.
That's crazy.
And the people that don't win, they end up getting deals too. The second and third place people, they had planned on, the labels had planned on giving them a deal too. They just, they find who test the best, who tests the best on the television show as far as the fan reaction and the crowd reaction. And that's the one that they, choose to win. And that's the one that they put the most money behind. But they've already saved millions of dollars in marketing just by having them on TV for 6 months before the record comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, with Flaw, you guys really didn't get a whole lot of recognition until your second album. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, the second record didn't sell as well as the first. We didn't have as much time to write it as the first. We didn't have the same core writers involved with the writing process as the first. And Universal was going through a complete changeover in personnel. Like I said, our A&R guy left. We were handed to a whole new group of people that didn't have any kind of time invested into us. We didn't get, any videos for the second record. They didn't really push any of our singles to radio. So we didn't get the same love on the second record as we did the first. So it, obviously didn't do as well.
Okay, I'm a little off then in my research. So Payback was on the first album then? That was the big hit. Okay.
Yeah, Payback was the first record.
Okay. How did that feel like when that song really took off? Like, how did that change your life?
Everything happened pretty quickly around that time frame. We showcased up in New York. We decided to go with Universal. We chose to work with David Bottrell as a producer who had just finished a couple Tool records, they did a couple of videos for that record. Everything went pretty far, pretty fast. It felt amazing. Looking back at it now, older and wiser, not that I didn't appreciate what was happening then, but I probably would have been a lot smarter about some of the decisions that I made. I would have, I definitely would have handled some situations differently. I wouldn't have let the label tour us for 2.5 years on our first album, because that was just too much time, to be out and away from the studio writing the second record. It put too much of a gap in between our first and second record. But yeah, it was an amazing ride at the beginning there. We went from, selling out small venues, in our hometown of Louisville, Kentucky to playing in front of 50,000 people at Ozfest, and, going overseas and doing Ozfest Europe, playing places like France and England and Ireland. It was amazing, going from sleeping in a van with 5 guys, crammed in a van to having, your own tour bus is it's a really good feeling, but it's also easy to kind of, lose sight of what's important. I was definitely guilty at that time of getting caught up in the whole glitz and glamour of it all. I wouldn't trade anything to happen for the world, but I would definitely come at it a little, smarter and wiser now. But also we knew nothing about the industry at that point. I understand how the record business works now. I understand how these companies work. I understand what it takes. I understand what type of areas they will try to take advantage of you in. I think everybody can probably say that, anybody that's, had a career that's lasted this long, would probably say that they wish they knew then what they know now, but, that's definitely true for us.
You guys toured with some pretty well-known acts from that time period. Who all did you guys end up touring with after that first album? It's a pretty long list. We toured with Seven Dust a bunch of times. We love those guys. Let's see, Cold Chamber, Dope, Mudvayne, Drowning Pool, all the guys that, we did the Ozfest shows with, System of a Down, Mushroom Head. Boy, I know I'm leaving out a whole bunch, man. If I had time to sit down and think about it, I could actually, come up with a lot more. But we did get to play with a lot of really, really good bands, a lot of bands that we, completely respected and, had an influence on us at a certain point of our lives.
Yeah.
Did you develop a camaraderie with a lot of those bands you toured with?
Yeah, we did actually. It was not as competitive back then as it is now. And it was more like, Ozfest, specifically was, we were, we were hanging out afterwards, back in Bus Row every night, after the concerts, with the guys from Hatebreed, the guys from El Nino, all the guys from Down. We would break out the barbecues, and people would break out acoustics, and it was like one big family. The guys in Seven Dust, when we first came out, they took us under their wing. They were really nice to us. We developed a really, close friendship with those guys. Morgan, the drummer, even came out. We did the pre-production for our second record in Atlanta, and the Seven Dust guys were, home on break, and he came out and hung out with us in the studio. Let's see. Went to a strip club one night with Maynard from Tool, and that was a really interesting experience, to say the least. But honestly, we've always kind of been like, we've always felt like, on a tour, the musicians are out there all doing the same job, and even though you want to, in the back of your mind, you want to be the best band of the night. The overall goal is that, the people that have come to watch you play actually enjoy the entire show. And, when you get a bunch of guys together that all feel that same way, it's a really good thing, because you end up not only getting along better, but you end up, playing better because you're feeling better. And, there's no animosity, and there's no, backstabbing and talking behind backs and stuff. But yeah, we had a great time with, everybody we toured with.
Now, you guys were part of the whole nu metal movement from the late 90s, the early 2000s, and I look at that music as really more of a like a family than really any other style of music that's ever come about. Like, I could be walking around wearing a Mudvayne shirt and see a guy with a Korn shirt, and we know we're brothers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at that time, that was a really good time for rock music. It was a really good time for metal. It was on the upswing, and there was also a new kind of breed of metal music that was coming to the forefront at that point. Like a harder groove oriented, still with singing, some screaming, kind of like the heavier groove oriented metal music with singing and screaming and harmonies. And, the lyrics meant something. There was substance and there was feeling. And I think the fans connected with that, but I think the bands also kind of connected with each other because of that. We came out right as the internet was blowing up. And so that threw the whole industry threw record labels into, a tailspin, because they were losing money on album sales because everybody was copying songs. This is, back before Metallica even sued Napster. It also made us kind of appreciate each other more, because we realized how fragile the industry that, we were in, that our careers were based on, how fragile it really was. And it made us appreciate each other more. So I definitely think, that whole nu metal genre, Deftones, Korn, Mudvayne, Seven Dust, us, Limp Bizkit, like that whole, group of bands back then, really kind of embraced each other, because we knew we had to, stick together in order to, continue to make this work. Because every other day, bands were getting dropped off their labels. And it was a scary time. The industry has recovered and has figured out how to use the internet to their advantage now. But at that time, it was kind of touch and go for a lot of bands. I still remember a lot of bands that we played shows with or toured with that got one record and were just gone, and they were amazing bands. But that it is what it is. You got to take it for what it's worth, and if you love what you do, you take the good with the bad.
Yeah, that's true. And I do remember some bands that came out around that time that I really liked. And like you said, one album, they were gone. Like Darwin's Waiting Room is a fine example of that. They were a phenomenal band, but they disappeared after one album.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of funny you brought them up because Alex, the bass player for Five Bolt Maine, which was my side project after Flaw broke up for a while, he is the bass player from Darwin's.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, you know, there were some people that didn't stop playing music, and there were some people that were just, they were so disconcerted by being dropped after one record that they just gave up on the whole process. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bands that were talented enough and worked hard enough, but still, weren't given the opportunity to continue a career.
Who were some of your influences when you were growing up?
My mom was really into opera. She was an amateur opera singer. My dad was really into jazz. So as a young kid, I had a lot of opera and jazz around the house. At the age of, I think I was like 6, maybe, they bought me my first record player. And they bought me a Beatles record. That's when I fell in love with rock and roll. As I, got into adolescence, I discovered 80s metal. I discovered, the ballad rock bands like Journey. Journey is definitely one of my all-time favorites, as far as vocalists and as far as a rock ballad's concerned. That was the first band I listened to where it, actually gave me chills and I could feel what the singer was saying. And from there, I listened to a lot of classic rock as well. I listened to a lot of Hendrix, a lot of Boston. Eagles, Skynyrd, the Doors. And then, as rock started progressing, I can't forget about bands like, Iron Maiden and Rush, Pink Floyd, Rat, Motley Crue. But as it progressed, Alice in Chains hit me really heavy when their first record came out. Lane Staley is an amazing vocalist. So I listened to a whole variety of things. I was a really big fan of the Beastie Boys. Still am, of course, but I've always believed that, it's important to listen to a lot of different styles. Of course you're going to have your favorites, but, keeping the full spectrum of what music is as a whole is really important for an artist, to not basically pigeonhole himself into one constant style or one constant feeling. First Korn record, first Deftone record. All those things definitely had an impact on us.
Oh yeah, and the first Korn and Deftones albums, they really changed the game.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm sure there were artists that did it before, but Jonathan Davis, with his lyrics, with how in your face he was and honest he was with those lyrics about things he'd been through, and the way his emotions came through in his singing and in his screaming, mixed with the style of music they played. When that record came out, it hit with a sledgehammer, man.
Yeah.
Totally.
Now you originally grew up on the East Coast, right?
Yeah. Yep. I grew up not far from the Chesapeake Bay, kind of in between Annapolis, Maryland, and Washington, D.C.
And then you said you moved to Louisville later on.
Yeah. I moved to Louisville in like 96 or 97.
And you were playing in bands when you were in the D.C. area. How different were the music scenes in both places?
Well, I didn't really play in. I didn't play in many bands in the D.C. area. I was still too young. I did practice with bands, and we had bands, but we were still too young to really get any gigs. We were just starting out. I did play in a band that played a lot of gigs when I lived in New Jersey for a little while. After moving out of the house, after turning 18, that was a really cool scene. It was, it was definitely a little bit different. But the rock scene around that area hadn't really flourished. So, it was more like a bunch of, old high school friends getting together, at a venue than it was really, drawing in a large amount of ticket sales.
When I think of the Jersey music scene, I think of a bunch of guys just sitting around playing old Springsteen and Bon Jovi covers.
Well, it's funny you said that, because one of our first gigs in the band that I was in was at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, and that's famous for the whole Bruce Springsteen era down there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of really good bands that came out of that area at that time. I'm drawing a blank right now. There was a band called Black Train Jack. They had a major label deal. They only put out a couple records though. There's Monster Magnet. Let's see. A band called Bullet Revolta, I believe, was from there. I don't think any of these are bands that people would actually, remember today. Maybe Monster Magnet, because they had a couple radio hits.
Yeah. I think
not too long ago.
I think My Chemical Romance is from Jersey, but they're a completely different sound.
Right. Yeah, and I think that they actually got signed after I had been gone out of there for a while.
Yeah, I think they signed in like 01 or 02, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, what was the scene like in Louisville?
Oh, that was a lot of fun, man. We got to watch that entire scene pretty much just become epic almost. There was our manager likes to call it, a small Seattle, because there really wasn't a place, after Seattle that had a handful of bands signed in a short amount of time, to major label deals. The scene was great. Louisville was a great music town. They, there was a lot of venues to play. The bar managers and the venue owners took care of the bands that played there, as far as, paying them what they were worth, realizing that they were all starving artists, and that, that it cost money to play music. There was a lot of venues to play. The fans in the crowd, they were very supportive. It built up pretty quickly. We were almost, every weekend. Actually, we were for quite a while every weekend. Playing at one of the larger venues, and pretty much selling it out for probably a good maybe year before we actually got our deal. We were signed right all around the same time that Tantric signed a deal. I think Days of the New was the first one to sign.
I actually just saw Tantric last month. They're a really good band. I love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Who else got signed at that time? Primer 55. There's a band called Outspoken that signed to Atlantic. My Morning Jacket signed out of there. There was there was maybe 6 or 7 bands that signed major label deals out of the Louisville music scene within about 10 to 12 month period. But the scene was awesome. They really embraced us, and we credit, people, in Louisville for helping us, maintain the drive that it took for us to believe, to realize and to see through our goals and our dreams.
So what's the future with the band? What can we expect from this new record?
Well, we're definitely going back to our old school writing style. The songs are going to sound more reminiscent of the writing on Through the Eyes than they did off of our second one, Endangered Species. A lot of energy. We've still incorporated, serious, heartfelt lyrics. that are easy to relate to, and just a lot of guitar textures, a lot of ambient pieces, a lot of really heavy groove parts as well. But yeah, I mean, I think people are really, really going to like it. We just finished up the first 2 songs, like I said, down in Nashville, and they're still blowing us away. It's one of those things where, like, I have a rough mix copy of the songs, and it's killing me that I can't let anybody hear it. You know what I mean? Because we're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think people are gonna, they're gonna say that the old Flaw is back. We picked up where a proper third record should have been, and we can't wait for everybody to hear it, man.
So is it going to be heavier than what we heard from you guys before?
I wouldn't feel, I mean, some parts, maybe a little bit here and there. It's not going to be a departure from the overall style that we, started out with. There's going to be heavy songs. There's going to be songs that have heavy verses, that break into, a nice ethereal, harmonized chorus. We're going to have ballads on there because we've always had ballads, on our CDs. Like I said, that we were going back to the core of our initial writing style and our initial writing formula. We love listening to all different kinds of music. We like, slower emotional type rock, but then we like, the heavier groove stuff. So we're going to incorporate all that into our record. And our goal is to have a record that surpasses Through the Eyes, which is sitting right at gold right now, about 500,000 units sold. In terms of, like, we've always had people tell us that they can listen to that record, from front to back. They don't have to skip past any songs. And, we want it to be like a journey, like a story that we're telling. And I think we definitely got the songs for that on this record. And we're definitely working with, the right producer to actually get our point across the way that, we envision it. We just, like I said, we can't wait for everybody to hear it.
What label are you guys with right now?
We're actually in between labels. We did the first 2 records on Universal, and our manager, who's the same guy that got us to deal with Universal, he's talking to like 4 different labels right now. We're kind of in a best case scenario position right now because instead of having one offer and taking that, the best case scenario is that you have 4 different offers and you get those labels kind of bidding against each other for you. And that's what we have right now. We basically went into the studio without a label, but with the interest of several. And with these 2 songs done, our manager has meetings with these labels within the next couple of weeks. That's just going to fuel the pot. So I don't even want to mention which labels we're talking to just because I don't want to jinx it, and I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to do that. But they're definitely labels everybody's heard of, and they're definitely, labels that can take us to the next level.
See, I always wondered how that went when a band breaks up and then comes back, if they have to go through the whole process of getting a label again. I mean, 9 times out of 10, that's the way you have to do it. See, we didn't break up, and then the label dropped us. Like, we got caught up in the woodwork of the second record not selling as many records as they wanted it to. So we got dropped before we broke up. But we actually, got the entire rug pulled out from under us. And we tried to keep going, but because of everything that had happened, everybody didn't react the way we should have. And we kind of let it affect us in a bad way. We did keep going after getting dropped by the label, but it only lasted about maybe 8 or 9 months. So in our situation, we're basically, we're not back at square one because we already have the grassroots fan base set up. People know who we are. We don't have to start from square one because even the industry, like the labels, know who we are, but we do have to re-sign a deal. And when a band goes away for a while,
it's pretty much unheard of that a label is going to stick by them during their downtime. They have other projects they have to put money into. They have other, projects that they need to spend time on. So you pretty much just kind of get swept to the side. So we're right back in the middle of it now. Like I said, I'm happy to say that we're in a best case scenario situation where we have several labels that are competing against each other for us. So we're going to take our time choosing the right one this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I really look forward to hearing the new album.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, we can't wait for it to get out.
You said it should be dropping sometime this summer?
Yeah. We should be finished with the recording process by, I'd say, the end of May. And then they're going to use maybe a month and a half, for advertising time. During this time we're going to be touring, but the record should drop somewhere, mid to late summer.
Any idea who you're going to be touring with?
We've thrown around some, obviously, we're friends with a lot of bands that are still actively touring. There's been some mention, of some bands, maybe a Non-Point thing, a lot of festival dates, probably some stuff with the Drowning Pool guys again. There was some mention, possibly some Volbeat stuff. But this is all just, our booking agent is, throwing out some ideas. Our booking agency, TKO, they also book, another 70 bands, so it's really easy to just figure out which bands work, as far as genre and style together. But yeah, there's been talk of, us doing another, run with Cold and with Seven Dust, just like the old days. But nothing's been set in stone yet. They're waiting for us to get a little further along in the recording process of the new record.
That's awesome, man. Definitely look forward to seeing you guys in Cleveland for sure.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's one of our favorite places to play. You can't go wrong with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
That's very true. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thank you very much for having us, man. We always appreciate the support. And I have to say that I hear from a lot of people, our fans and friends, that the whole iHeartRadio, machine that's rolling right now is one of their favorites. It's a really cool concept you guys have, and we definitely appreciate the support.
All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, bye.
This is no ordinary sub shop. This is Firehouse Subs.
Welcome to Firehouse.
Tired of overpriced lunches that underdeliver on flavor? Head to Firehouse Subs, where for a limited time you can get a $4.99 choice sub. Choose from a medium smoked turkey, Virginia honey ham, or roast beef. They're custom-made hot subs at a price ready-made to make you smile. Just $4.99, only at Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives. Participating locations plus tax, limited time offer. Prices may vary for delivery. This is no ordinary sub shop. This is Firehouse Subs.
Welcome to Firehouse.
Tired of overpriced lunches that underdeliver on flavor? Head to Firehouse Subs, where for a limited time you can get a $4.99 choice sub. Choose from a medium smoked turkey, Virginia honey ham, or roast beef. They're custom-made hot subs at a price ready-made to make you smile. Just $4.99, only at Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives. Participating locations plus tax, limited time offer. Prices may vary for delivery.